it's a ton of football to be played yet. You know what I mean? It's still a lot of football to be played, but if you would have told me, the Lions were 3-1 at this point, the season, it's still early. It's just turned calendar, just flipped to October. I think everybody would have took that. And then with a potential game against Cincinnati, like you said, without Joe Burrow, a Sunday night matchup with Kansas City, which we've had some success against them. And then, a Monday night game, which is going to be bananas against the Bucks, which is a team where I like the Bucks. Based off the last 2 years, it seemed like they building something kind of good over there. But that team can't beat the Lions, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you got to put your best foot forward now to beat us. That's how I feel.
I think the Bucks can. The
They
Bucks
can.
capable.
They can. Yeah, they capable, of course. Yeah, they beat us last year. You're right. They capable, but well, I think you really gonna have to pack a lunch. I use that cliche if you want to beat the Lions. Of course, they're gonna have a game where they stink up the joint and they fall flat. You know what I'm saying? Kind of come out flat. You're gonna have a Houston game. Remember when we played Houston and Goff had the 5 interceptions? One a game where we're struggling. Our offense is gonna struggle. The defense might struggle. Of course, we throughout a 17 game season, you're gonna have a couple like that. But man, I was saying 10-7 was gonna be like my barometer. Right now, I mean, we on the 12-13 win pace right now. You know what I mean? I don't think 15. I think 15 from last year is unheard of. It's unrealistic, but definitely double digits. Over double, 12, 13 wins right now. I'm just looking at how the schedule's shaking out right now. I mean, just look at it, Walter, to see us. You could play the shoulda, woulda, coulda game with the Packers. And what's up, E? Um, you could play the shoulda, woulda game against the Packers if we had maybe another quarter. That game could have been interesting the first game of the season, but I think it was good for us to lose the way we did, man, because I think everybody just was kind of like the it's over for the Lions. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. Now, I think Lions kind of gained their respect back. You know what I'm saying? People was like, "Oh, well, the Bears is better than the Lions," and what we do, we put up 52 on them boys. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, okay, well,
Man,
maybe they are.
those are irrational people though, man, that live and die and damn near want to lynch themselves every Sunday night if their team loses. Like it's not that serious, man. And we know we say this every single season, every single Monday, every single Sunday evening, every single Sunday morning, a Saturday night,
Mhm.
week to week basis. Don't jump off the building. You can look at, and I'm not never been one to really make up excuses for wins or losses at all, because at the end of the day, you play who you play whenever you play them.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot to go into the fact that Green Bay was playing at home. Of course, it was the home opener to the season. They stoked because they playing us, regardless of what Vikings fans may think or Bears fans may think. We are their rivalry. At the end of the day, we're the number one rivalry for the Green Bay Packers. They had just got Micah Parsons 7 days before, so they were still riding on that high right there. So, and then it was always the element of surprise too. We didn't necessarily know what to expect from Green Bay's offense. We didn't expect them to play. I'm not going to say conservative because they did kind of play conservative, but they played more disciplined of a brand
Mhm.
of football under Jordan Love that we were pretty much weren't used to seeing. But
Yeah.
they beat us. Make no
Yeah.
mistake about it. I don't make up any excuses for wins and losses. They beat us. Now we'll play them when we play them later on in the season. But yeah, after that one game, remember people were talking about they were Super Bowl contenders and they were the favorites because they had Parsons and look what they did to Detroit. And then we beat Baltimore. Then everything changed again. Well, actually, it changed after we beat Chicago. But yeah, these national pundits, they hang and fall off every single Sunday. You're only as good as what you did yesterday, which I think is utterly ridiculous because it's a marathon. It's only a 17 game season, but it's a 17 game marathon. And to your point, as this dog keeps chewing on this bone while I'm trying to talk,
Mm.
but to your point, And what granted, the Lions may not have one of those dud games. They may be past that. They didn't really have a dud game last year. They may have a dud half every now and then or a dud quarter. But even that Houston game last year, they played bad in the first half because they couldn't really the element of surprise. They didn't really know how to handle that Houston front. But
Yep.
offensively, they got it together in the second half against Houston. Defensively, they got it together against Houston. Houston, and they eventually shut Houston out in the second half of that game. They got a couple picks as well, and of course, Jake Bates walked
Yeah.
them off. But I think they're past the dud performances against bad teams. We talked about that last week with Houston. Some people viewed that as a trap game. Potentially, they could come in here and upset us. Never believed it. Never believed it one bit. I think this team mentally and physically is so advanced and past that that's something as Lions fans we can kind of take and we can bury that in the back
Yes.
of our minds because there are still Lions fans who feel like, oh, but yeah, we may beat Kansas City, but we may have this next weekend. Be on the lookout for Jacksonville or be on the lookout for the Tennessee Titans. And that's a lot of the old Detroit Lions habits, I think, still creeping back into a lot of people's
Yep.
minds. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you 100%, man. Before we get, I don't really want to get too much into the Bengals game because we're gonna jump into that Saturday
Yeah.
morning. But we do want to kind of stick to the first quarter of the season. And you started out, of course, the Green Bay game that came and gone. That seemed like that was a month ago. Well,
It was a month
technically, it
ago. Yeah.
was. Now I think about it,
Yeah. We.
yeah, yeah. But you know, they jumped on the Bears. I think that Bears game is what lit
Mhm.
everything,
Yeah.
honestly. And you know, we didn't expect Baltimore, and I'm not going to apologize for beating Baltimore. You know, it's not our fault that they may have a down year. It's not our fault that we don't know what's going on with the head coach. He could be out. It's not our fault that their quarterback is out with a hamstring injury. It's not our fault that they lost their best defensive lineman to retirement. Then they lost their second best defensive lineman to an injury, and he's
Hmm.
out now. But we jump on who we supposed to jump on, and
Yeah.
we handle them. And I think that's the key thing for them
Yeah.
so
That's
far.
right. Um. Yeah. Amen to what you said, man. I mean, I think that the first part of the season. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you like this: How much? And then I'll answer behind you. I just interested to see how you're gonna answer this. Like, okay, week one to week two to week three to last week. How much? How much are you gonna? How much would you say is coaching, or just the players? Like, I mean, obviously, I know we know it's the players, obviously, but do you think coaching is really like has taken over? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is our way. We could just put plug and play guys, and if we do it our way, our system, the way we're taught, you know what I'm saying? Then it don't matter. Next man up. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is just the coaching. I mean, I just think that Dan Campbell. I don't think that we give enough uh, credit. I just think that Dan don't get enough credit, man. From Because I really do think it takes a special dude. I'm telling you, special. What I mean is philosophy wise to change what. Listen to what we're saying now. We're saying yeah we expect to not even lose games to the Bengals and the Browns anymore. You know what I'm saying? At least not right now in our part of our this Detroit Lion football. So what I'm saying is, do you think from week one to week now, how much credit does Dan Campbell get? I ask you like that. I mean, do you think he gets a lot of the credit?
He get a ton of credit. Now, the reason I don't give him all of the credit is because, granted, we have players who've been here
Right.
long enough. They've been here before. They know how to handle
Yeah.
a loss. It wasn't even a bad loss. I don't think they just completely underperformed like that. People forget that was still a winnable game. Heading into the fourth quarter, it was a 17-6 game, if I'm not mistaken. But the man lost his defensive coordinator. Everybody made a huge deal about that with good reason. The man lost his OC. Everybody made a big deal about that
Yeah.
with good reason. Um, in comes John Morton. Nobody really knows a damn thing about him. Here gets Kelvin Shepherd promoted. People knew who Kelvin Shepherd was around here. He'd been here for a minute. People also remember Kelvin Shepherd from being a player in the NFL. He also played at
Yeah.
LSU, but we knew nothing about what to expect out of a defense ran by Kelvin Shepherd. So I have to give both of those guys credit too, because he looked at John Morton was taking a lot of guff
Yep.
after week one. You had people calling for his job, which was utterly ridiculous. Now, at the end of the day, it's Dan's ship. So Dan's going to get the credit. But I would also say, and I believe they're better than Green Bay. Even though Green Bay beat us week one, I never once said that I felt Green Bay was better. I think from top to bottom, we're better than Green Bay. But after Green Bay, you're talking about we ran against a Chicago team that was still kind of figuring things out, trying to get their footing, not making any excuses for
Yeah.
anything. Um, we played the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody expected that game to be a battle of the juggernauts, and it turned out to be a game where Detroit put the world on notice in prime time once again that they're for real. And no, y'all think that the Baltimore Ravens are this. Well, we're gonna show y'all that they're not that. At least not this year, or maybe any more for that matter. So they were supposed to handle Baltimore because Baltimore defensively has been bad for the last year and a half, for that matter, ever since a couple of people left, including head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Mike McDonald. But and then the Cleveland
Yeah.
game. I talked about it last week how Cleveland, regardless of how good you are defensively, if you can't score, you up shit's creek in football. You can have as good of a defense as you want to have. And I talked about when I made the basketball comparison. You can be a defensive player in 5-on-5 and be
Yeah.
hit. When you're talking about 1-on-1, how you plan on winning a 1-on-1 game if you can't dribble and you can't
Right.
shoot? And the Baltimore Ravens can't dribble and they can't shoot. They put up a decent little fight midway through the first quarter. It was looking a little bit like, oh, here we go. Might be a somewhat ugly game. And then we did what we were supposed to do. The Baltimore Ravens the previous week did the same thing to them. They played Cleveland. I mean, they played Baltimore pretty tough in the first half, and then not Cleveland, but Baltimore eventually pulled away in the second half because they were at least a better. Well, as bad as we think Baltimore is, they're still a better team than
Yeah.
Cleveland, for that matter. But then you look at us. They put up a bit of a fight for like the first quarter, and then we stepped on the gas. Honestly, we should have dropped 50 on them.
Yeah.
Being And I think that's something that should be accounted for now that we're at a point in time where we're the team that goes out there and puts out a B minus performance and can win by
Yeah.
40. It didn't take a plus performance. It didn't take a C minus performance all the way to the final whistle for us to squeak one out
Yeah.
against Cleveland. We took care of Cleveland because we were supposed to take care of them. We're going to take care of Cincinnati because we're supposed to take care of Cincinnati. I feel very comfortable saying that. You brought up Kansas City. We got the Bengals in a couple weeks. I mean,
Chief.
not the Bengals, but the Kansas City Chiefs for that matter. Yeah. Um, I think that's another team that we're better than right
Yeah.
now. It's if people can learn how to shake that "oh, but it's the Lions" moniker. No, it's not "oh, but it's the Lions." It should be by now. It should be "oh, it's the
Yeah.
Lions."
Yeah.
That's really
That's
what it
right.
should
That's
be.
right. And then while you don't have a plus 49 point differential, which the Lions are plus 49 right now against their opponents. And for nothing, man. I mean, a lot of it's skewed because we scored 52 against the Bears, but I just think that, like you said, teams in the past wouldn't beat the Browns the way we did. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't beat the Bears like we did. You know what I mean? In the past, it'd be just like, oh man, we squeaked it out, or field goal to win the game. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, man, they dominated. It wasn't even a doubt that who's the better team. Since week one, it was been no doubt of who's been the better team when they played. You know what I'm saying? In all four games, and I think it's not just a flash in the pan. I think that's how this team operates now. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, rushing. The offensive line look good right now. I totally missed on that. I totally thought the offensive line would be the reason why we wouldn't be good. You know what I mean? I really thought that, and now I was wrong. I mean, I admit it. You know what I'm saying? I admit. I just thought not that Mahogany and Ratliff couldn't play. It was just I just thought that it would be a learning curve, man, and it still may be. In some different schemes or you know, a team is going to throw something at us, or maybe a look at a formation we haven't seen, or a blitz package, or a stunt, or something that these guys haven't seen. We might have trouble with it, you know what I mean? But yeah, there we go. I mean, Tate Ratledge is a very he strikes me. I'm gonna just say this after 4 games. Well, he strikes me as very coachable, a high IQ. That was what I didn't even read that first line of that scouting report, and he's got a high IQ. You could tell. I mean, he knows exactly where he's supposed to be. I mean, that's the one thing I look at now. This Tate Ratledge kid, he knows exactly what he's doing, man. You know what I'm saying? And it only took a game and a half for him to kind of figure it out. You know what I mean? It's beautiful to watch, man. Just seeing he mixes it up. He's way more tougher than I thought he was. You know what I mean? I didn't really take him as a guy that can really mix it up in the run game, but man, he excuse me, he can really hold his own against athletic type defensive ends, and we've seen some so far in the first 4 games. The way he handled Mason Graham was totally, man, commendable. I like Tate Ratledge, man. Really, I like him even more now. I knew he's a good player when we drafted him, so that's why I didn't poo poo the pick. I like the pick, but man, he looks really good
Of
right
course.
now, and it looks like that's that pick is good. We good on Tate Ratledge. We good on Kristen Mahogany as well. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the biggest thing with this team, man. To have our offensive line playing at a high level. You know what I'm saying? And it's showing. And if they can get better, and like you said, I thought we left points on the board. Like you said, I think against Cleveland, we left points out there, kind of took the foot off the gas just a little bit, and against Baltimore. You know what I mean? I think the Baltimore game looked closer than what it should have been. I don't think it was a 38-30 shootout, last possession win type game. You know what I mean? They got that last touchdown, I think, with a couple seconds left and made it score look a little bit closer. But yeah, man, the offensive line for me, that's the one thing I got a gold star by that for the first half of the first quarter of the season. Wall far exceeded my expectations. I was totally wrong. You know what I mean? I was really worried about Graham Glasgow. Remember, I told you Graham Glasgow shouldn't even be out there. Yeah, after week one, I flew off the handle about that. I was wrong. I'm really impressed. I didn't think they would come to play the way they have. You know what I mean? This early, this quick. You know what I'm saying? Learning. And it just seems like everybody on the same, don't it seem like our offense, everybody on the same page? It looks like everybody knows exactly what we're doing. And that's what I want to see, man. Offensive, we good on offense for real. You know what I'm saying? As long as we stay healthy, we good.
So yeah, all of that you just said points directly to having options, and when you have options, you have
Yeah.
balance. You should at least you should have balance. You look at a team in contrast like the Atlanta Falcons. They got options, but they don't have no damn balance
Yeah.
at all. We have two legit running backs in the backfield. We got a legit quarterback. We got, I would say, two and a half wide
Yeah.
receivers right now. We got St. Brown, who's a stud. Jameson Williams is still working towards becoming a consistent number 2 wide receiver, a guy that can go out there and get you 6 catches for 90 yards. I think right now for JMO, which kind of frustrates me a little bit, is that there's still so much Joker X factor with him. It's like it's either 4 catches for 150 and a touchdown, or it's 3 catches for 22 yards and nothing else. I want to see him eventually turn the corner and become like a consistent number 2 wide receiver. He may never be a straight
Yeah.
possession type of guy, but man, like I can I at least get a little bit more than just the one end of the
Yeah.
pendulum all the way to the other end of the pendulum. And it's like there's no means really in between. But to your credit, what you just said about the offensive line points directly to this. And you look at the balance through the first four
Mhm.
games, they're first in the NFL in points scored. Of course, they're first in the NFL right now in point
Yeah.
differential. They're 20th in pass attempts. They're seventh in rushing attempts. They're 10th in passing yards. They're sixth in rushing yards. They're second in passing touchdowns. Second in rushing touchdowns. And this right here, I think, is really key too, especially in the passing game. They're sixth right now in yards gained per
Yeah.
attempt, and they're ninth in yards per attempt rushing the football. So this is a team right now, but I will say this because we saw this early in the 2024 season when they were playing against some bad or some questionable competition. When they see mutts, they jump on
Mhm.
them. That's one thing for sure. They jump on them and they don't they don't hold up on them. Now, not to say that they can't do this to some of these perceived upper echelon teams, but to me, and I'm gonna see. I'm. I've been thinking about this, and I've been wondering if you viewed the NFL the same way. But to me, outside of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is undefeated. Outside of Philadelphia, it doesn't feel like there's this gauntlet of teams that we need to be
Nope.
fearful of.
Nope.
It doesn't. Kansas City, do we expect them to be there in the end, competing, fighting? Yeah. Buffalo, and Buffalo too. Buffalo looks like, okay, they may be a boogeyman, but Buffalo still got their own demons that they battling. They trying to get
Mhm.
over the hump.
That's right.
Baltimore looks like it's going to be a down year for them to
Yeah.
feel the
That's
pain.
right.
Um, Pittsburgh, me and Fidel was talking about Pittsburgh the other day. Pittsburgh got almost as good a chance of winning the AFC right now, it
Yeah.
looks like, as anybody else outside of maybe
That's right.
Buffalo, because they got a capable quarterback now that can get guys the football.
That's right. Yeah. The Chargers was, that's been my team for the last couple of years. I'm kind of still waiting on the Chargers. I think Harbaugh can really he has put his stamp on that team. That
But they done lost both of their best offensive
Yeah,
linemen
yep,
now.
they have. Yep. I see that. I like that Quentin Johnston looking like he's back to playing football like he was when he got drafted out of TCU. You know what I'm saying? I always thought Quentin Johnston, he's not the fastest guy, but I think he's got good hands. He can play ball, man. I think finally it's good to see he's out there playing.
Now we
You know
do.
what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like the NFL, I just don't feel that it's a threat out there. I think if the Lions were 4-0, let's just say if we'd have beat the Packers, they would be saying it would the Lions you could say it is better than the Eagles. And that's the only reason why people won't say it. The media won't say it, but if they were 4-0 like the Eagles, the Lions would be the better team. You know what I mean? It just is that simple to me. I don't think the Eagles are better than the Lions right now. I always thought last year, in no part of the season, I thought that the Lions were better than the Eagles. You know what I mean? But now I think that the way we started out this season, and listen, I mean the Lions could go. What's up, Casey? The Lions could go um, and lose. 2 out of 3 or something coming up later on in the season, but I won't feel the same. Now it won't be a panic. You know what I'm saying? Like losing the first game was kind of like a panic. Like you know what I mean? But now because they're gonna lose a couple more games. I mean, it's not like they're gonna go through the season, right? They ain't gonna go through the season 16-1. So you get to quarters of the season. This is a good, you know, turn, bend of the corner. Go 3-1. These next the next couple 5 games. Are a little bit stiffer competition. I do think I don't feel good about the DJ Reed thing, man. I know DJ Reed is going to come back, you know what I mean? But I don't feel good about him not being in there, well, because I'm not confident. I can't believe I'm saying this right now, but it's almost like I don't really feel confident if we have one weakness. Now I switch it from the offensive line to our secondary, but I think our D line has been good enough where it kind of don't matter. They don't have to be great. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why Terry Arnold can get away with kind of what he's been doing. and they're going to lean on him again.
I want to set you up, and I'm glad you
Yeah,
brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to set you up because I wanted to get your opinion on this guy that now that you just brought up the defensive line. Are you surprised he's had as big of an impact
yes, I
already
am.
and as early
Yeah,
as he has? Because he doing
yeah,
his job.
yeah,
He's doing his job. He's commanding the double team. He's shedding blocks. He's making tackles in the run game. He doesn't miss any tackles. If I'm not mistaken, he hasn't missed a tackle so far
yeah,
this season. The pass rushing isn't there right now because they're not really asking him to do much
yeah,
of that. But man,
yeah,
he's protecting the line of scrimmage. And I was just thinking the other day, like, man, when Aleem come back at three
yeah,
technique and he's able to get after the quarterback, and this boy is next to Reader, or he's next to Aiden on the other side, and they can maneuver him around a lot because they've
yeah.
been playing him at three tech as well. How surprised have you been with this 6'3", 334-pound man child out here
Love it.
so
I
far?
mean, your scouting report was spot on. I mean, look at everything that you said. And this is you didn't just put this down. I mean, this is your scouting report on Talik Williams. You know what I'm saying? Before he was even drafted, and he's done everything exactly how you wrote it on here. It's been phenomenal, man. Um, I would even only thing I would say is his skill set. I think he's a little bit powerful, man. I do think he's got a bull rush, man. I really do. I think when Lee McNeil comes back, I think it's going to be formidable. I think that defensive line, Talik Williams has
Yes.
forced his way. Well, you ain't sitting this kid down. You know what I mean? When McNeil come back, he's not like getting ready to go to the bench. You know what I mean? He's got to be out there. He's an every down back, every down lineman. Love Talik Williams, man. I love the pick. I love like just like Tate Ratledge. I like it even more because with me, I want to see the guys on the field performing, and he's been since day one. They did it exactly right with him. You know what I'm saying? Don't let him on the sideline with his helmet in his hand and you pointing and saying, "Yeah, this is what happens when you do." No, you put the kid out there, let him show his talent. He's shown it. He's only going to get better. And like you said, I think the pressures will come. Like during the season, I can see, man, I'm already got the scenario in my head. I'm just hoping that the Eagles, Packers, Lions are both got one loss that Thanksgiving game. Boy, oh boy, that's gonna be something special, man. And I think he's right. He's earned his way, Walt, to be on the field, man. I think that this kid has really exceeded my expectation. I didn't think he'd be on the field playing as much as he has. That's if I had to say one thing. And then when
Remember, they didn't have a
yeah,
choice
that's
though.
true. That's true. You're right. They didn't have anybody else. You're right. But I'm just glad it fell for it like it did, just because he's on the field, man. You know what I mean? And I want guys who can play, man. He's already played more football than Ennis Rakestraw. You know what I'm saying? Guys that we haven't even Broderick Martin, Sione Baki. He's played more football already in his short career than all of those guys, man. So,
Well,
I
just
like it.
remember where we was last year.
Yeah.
Remember where we was last year and the prior year. We was crying about bugs.
Yeah,
Not
I
we
do.
was crying about bugs not being here and
Yeah.
being beaten down by injuries all the way down the position group within itself down to Makai Wingo having to play a lot of snaps. And Wingo hasn't even really had an impact. I just think that
No.
once this defensive line and Reader, of course, Talik was brought in to replace Reader
Yeah.
eventually. Reader, well, I'm pretty sure Reader, there's no room for DJ Reader now with Tyreek Williams here for next year.
Live for
This
next
year,
year.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But for
yeah.
next year, no.
No, no.
Yeah.
And
But
I
I
think
think having DJ Reader here, of course, has been, yep.
DJ been good, man.
No,
DJ
go ahead.
Reader been good. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, I think that's the best case scenario for Talik Woods to play in the same off defensive line is Aiden Hutchinson and DJ Reader. I think it's helped him, man. You know what I mean? You kind of hide him a little bit, let him get his feet wet, let him get some push. You know what I'm saying? Let him just be able to know how it is to play in a high pressure impact NFL game, and just think, like I said, during later on in the season, man, a season Talik Williams, a season Tate Ratledge, and Kristen Mahogany is going to work wonders for this team, man. As long as these guys can just somehow stay healthy most of the season with no season ending injuries. I think, like you said, the way this season's lining up for the Lions right now. Okay, you got DJ Reed, who's going to be, I think, injured reserve. You got to be on the list. Well, I think it's what 4 to 6 weeks or something. So he's going to miss at least 5, 6 games. You figure DJ Reed being on the injured list. What's the other young man who's on there? I can't think on top of my head. Somebody else just was on, just landed on there too. But what I'm saying is, I think that we could get DJ Reed around Thanksgiving back or something like that, around the sweet spot of the season schedule, and we could have a different outcome this year, man. You know what I'm saying? I think health is just going to be what we need to be. When December comes, you like you said, we don't have to be, just play your best ball, man, when it counts. You know what I mean? That I think that last year we fell victim of playing so great during the season, and then it just like all fell apart during the playoffs. It just like that wasn't even a lot. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't even. It was like a bad dream or something. The way it all. We knew not to give Washington credit. I mean, they came in and beat us. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it just seemed like we were out of characteristic of what we usually did, and the coaching. I mean, to be that made me respect Eric Glenn even more, because I think that they were up against it last year, man. They really were, and if for somehow some way they still was able to, you know, have this culture of winning, man, and I think it's carried over to this season, and it's like, I just don't think that. I don't think the Lions is gonna have like as many problems as I thought. You know what I mean? That's the only thing. If I had to just my whole takeaway from this first quarter of the season, I don't believe that we're in trouble like I thought we were. And I was wrong on that. I misjudged it. I thought for sure that we'd be struggling, 1-3 to start the season, and, talking about benching Jared Goff. And I felt that it was just going to go the other way, and that part of it. So, yeah, I learned my lesson. You know what I mean? That's not, them days is over, man. I really do believe that, because, like you said, look up and down the NFC. I don't think Seattle can beat the line. I mean, I don't. I look at all of these teams: Arizona, Atlanta, uh, the Rams. Rams. What I think it's 14-7 right now. They lose to the 49ers. 49ers. Washington to the point that was everybody's darlings to pick Washington to make it to the Super Bowl this year because they beat us. You know what I mean? And I don't see any of those teams beating the Lions right now.
I mean, right now at this moment, yeah, I can agree. I just hold off, man, because we witnessed it last year. This team went 15-2. They had a ton of injuries. I'm still a believer in the fact that if they would have been healthy, or at least halfway healthier than what they were, they beat Washington, hands down. But I want to stay on the defensive side of the ball because that's a side of the football where we talked about it this past off season. We talked about it after the 2023 off season about where we kind of felt statistically they should be in order to be a championship caliber team. Right now, after 4 games, they're 15th in the league in points given up, which is middle of the road right there. They're 12th in yards.
Uh huh.
Um, they're seventh in the league, which is really good. They're seventh in the league in first downs given up. They're 10th in attempts given up, passing attempts. They're 13th in passing yards given up. They're 19th in passing touchdowns given up, which isn't too good right now. They've given up 7 so far.
Hmm.
They are 8th in the league in takeaways right now.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Then, of course, against the run, which is what they did it since day one when they got here. Even when Deuce Staley was here, when other coaches was here, they hammered in to the game plan, into the core, the culture of this organization, this team. We're going to run the football on offense, and we're going to stop the run on defense. And they've been able to do it since day one. Remember, before this regime took over, we had been crying for 1,000-yard rushers since Barry left. Remember, we did the Jameer Gibbs show? his rookie year,
Yeah,
talking about could he break the curse? Well, he's broken the curse. Dave Montgomery then broke the curse.
yeah,
But I think this is a team, of course, that's they've always predicated themselves on being able to run the football on offense and being able to stop the run on defense. You look at their rushing statistics right now. Teams have only ran the ball on them 98 times, which is good for ninth in the league. They're seventh in yards given up, which is great. Great
uh-huh,
top 10 right there. They're 16th in touchdowns. They have given up 4 rushing touchdowns, but they're also seventh in the league against the run in yards per carry given up. They only given up 3.8 yards per carry, which is great.
uh-huh.
Top 10 in the league. So
Yeah,
they're kind of doing what we expected them to do. Stop the run, kind of play bend but don't break against the pass because we don't really have the cornerbacks to really hold up in man the way or in zone the way they want to consistently play. But if you can stop the run, and then also, and I want to get your thoughts on this because this is something else that plays into what you and I discussed last year with this team. If you look at the conversion rates, which is always one of the red eye spots that you want to look at in regards to judging these teams or whether they're really elite or not. This team right now on offense, they're 11th in the league in third down percentage, right outside the top 10, which ain't too bad at all. But you would like to get it above 41.5%,
yeah,
the third down conversion rate, which is at right now, but it's still good enough to get them third and with 3-1 and to get them the number one scoring offense in football. But
yeah,
you look at the defense right now. The defense right now is 22nd in the league in third down percentage. So that's kind of what worries me. And I think some of that plays into the fact that they're not getting the same takeaways so far this season that they were getting early on last season.
yeah,
So a lot of those not takeaways, but a lot of those possessions defensively that they're able to get off the field early,
yeah,
they're not getting the benefit of those takeaways. So I do think that's something right there. And then right now, defensively, they're 19th in the league in red zone percentage. So teams are scoring 61.5% of the time when they get in the red zone on us, which is way higher than what it was under Aaron Glenn last year. So what do you think of the defense so far through 4 games?
yeah. I think it's a unit still trying to find itself. Um, I think that I love the approach where they're trying to win up front, and I think that once we do that, I think that a lot of good things will happen. Like the turnovers will really start. I think that finally we was able to get to the quarterback. Lamar Jackson, El Qadim Muhammad sacked him a couple times. Aiden Hutchinson's been great. So far this season, last 2 games he's been really good. Um, I think that Jack Campbell, he's been the one guy that really has stood out to me. You know what I'm saying? Like Jack is not flashy, but man, he's a really good football player, man. You know what I'm saying? Derek Barnes has been good. You know what I mean? Our
Jack
linebacker
is their
core,
favorite.
yeah, yeah. Jack
Jack's gonna
Campbell,
be here for another 12 years.
yeah, oh yeah. Jack Campbell, he can play ball, man. I like that part of it. The secondary is to be desired. You know what I mean? I think that they did do some good things against the Ravens. They did. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that Lamar Jackson didn't have. I mean, the defensive linebackers was great in containment. You know what I mean? Where they kept them they corralled them, but that a little bit of it goes. The corners did do their job to an extent. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying to I just predicate that because Lamar didn't have 300 something yards. You know what I'm saying? Even Jordan Love in that first game, remember they barely got a first down. If I'm not mistaken, in second half they might have got under 5 first downs. I think the second half of the Packers. So they have done some good things, but I think the defensive line is way ahead of the secondary right now. I think the secondary getting away with it but being like mediocre at best because I think the defensive line has been so good. You know what I mean? But I do think it is a work in progress still. Well, to be like a cohesive unit where you can expect Muhammad to get a sack per game. You know what I mean? I don't think we're at that point yet. I think that good defense, if you're a good defensive line, you expect your players to perform and get a sack or play well every week. Now, this week is another opportunity. You know, you got a backup quarterback. Bengals offensive line is not that good. You know, that shows for Saturday. But what I'm saying is you got to rack up some good performances, and I think that the defense is finally healthy for one. I mean, it was a look that we barely seen last year because we just seemed like we didn't have a complete team on defense all of last year for any of the games. But I like it. I like what I see. I really do. I like they flying to the football. I like the philosophy of Kelvin Shepard. I really like him as a coach, man. It was just for him, not that Kelvin couldn't do it. It was just he was just an unknown. You didn't know what kind of philosophy he was going to have. You know what I mean? You didn't know what his tendencies was going to be. Now, to me, it seemed like he want guys that can make some plays out there. You know what I mean? I mean, as do every coach. You know, want their team to make some plays. But the only thing I could say if I had to nitpick is we don't. If it's not Kirby Joseph getting the turnover, it seems like we don't. If it's not him, nobody else to like make a play. You know what I'm saying? Make a play on the ball. Well, I mean, get us the ball back. You know what I mean? Like, let's get a strip sack
No, I
or
get you 100%.
you know what I
You
mean?
watch other games around the league and you see corners getting picks, and our corners rarely ever get picks.
Yeah, it's just Kirby Joseph playing
Mm.
center field, making a quarterback making a bad read, or you know what I'm saying, and he gets the interception. So I do think to answer your question, I'm sorry to be so long winded, but you got to be a work in pro, and I think that that's what we are. I think we're not a finished product yet. You know what I'm saying? I think it will when Elaine McNeil comes back. I really would like to see how they're going to shuffle this defensive line because if somebody may not get as much playing time as they get now, right? Because if you now do you move now, what's going to be the rotation? Well, like let's just say McNeil comes back in a couple weeks, maybe Monday night he come back. Uh, do you move because you got Reader? Reader is the nose, right? And
Yep.
then you're gonna have Talik. Do you move Talik Williams to the left or the right and have McNeil left or the right? Or you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be interesting. You got El Quadine, Hutch on the edges, DJ Reader in the middle. You know, you're gonna
Yeah.
move Williams Reader. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know Pat O'Connor's been playing some. It's just interesting to see how, and that's why I said earlier. I think Talik Williams has forced them to keep him on the field, man. When McNeil gets back, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's a situation where like, yeah, you did a good job, rookie. Go back and sit down now that McNeil's back. I don't think
No.
that's the case at all. You know what I'm saying? So
No,
I like that.
I think Reader stays in the rotation, but as it is with any young stud that's performing well, once
Yeah,
another guy comes back, you can't stunt that kid's growth.
yeah,
So Aleem McNeil is the better player between him and DJ Reader. He can do more out there on the field. He provides way more pass rush ability. But before Aleem got hurt, Aleem was the three technique. Aleem was the designated pass rusher who could also hold the line of scrimmage and play the run because he was inherently a nose tackle coming out of NC State. And he had to shed that baby fat and get in shape. And then they eventually turned him into a three tech. But Reader's going to still get his snaps. But I think Tyleek Williams, they took him in the first round for a reason. And I think this regime, they try to be careful and they try to be very slow and methodical with the maturation process for their rookies and their young players. But if a young player shows them from day one that they can ball and they can handle the workload and they got it up here mentally more important than anything else, they'll play you. They
yeah,
let Laporta play from day one. Jack Campbell didn't really play from day one because Jack had his playing linebacker in the NFL is like one of the toughest positions to go from college to the NFL playing and
yeah,
it took him a minute. But Jack, Jack is on his own now. But for the most part, if they don't think you're ready to play, Branch played early. The guys who are able to play early and are actually able to handle the defense and handle the offensive load that they're going to give them, they'll
Yeah,
let them play. Tyleek is not going back to the bench. Tyleek does what they need him to do. He's a 6'3", 330 plus pound guy who can not only play head up over the center at zero, he can play some one tech, he can two gap. He showed at Ohio State he can play some three technique. His final year at Ohio State, they played him predominantly as a three tech.
yeah,
Now, granted, the pass rush numbers aren't there, even though he did get a nice amount of pressure his last year at Ohio State. But the sack numbers aren't there because that's not what he naturally is. He's a versatile 330 plus pounder that you can play up and down the line of scrimmage. So I'm pretty sure that once Aleem McNeil comes back, you're going to see packages where you're going to get Tyleek Williams lined up at four tech, right over an offensive tackle. And then at the other end, at the left end, you got Aiden Hutchinson lined up over the tackle. Or he may be outside at five tech. And then you're going to have DJ Reader on the inside right next to Tyleek Williams. That's over 640 plus pounds of man child on the middle of that defensive line. It's going to be virtually impossible to run the football on this team. And I think that's the point right there that I'm so excited about because granted our cornerback play, as you mentioned, does leave a lot to be desired. If we could be so dominant up front, even with Barnes, we haven't even talked
uh-huh.
about the linebacker play. As far as Barnes and Jack Campbell is a stud out there, and Anzalone looks more comfortable because Jack Campbell is taking on more of the responsibility. So now Anzalone can do more see ball,
Yeah,
chase ball.
right.
His maturation, and we talked about this before the season started over the entire offseason. I think the ultimate ability for this defense to really reach that next level was all based upon if Jack Campbell in the middle of that defense was ready to take the next step. And you are 100% correct. Is Jack Campbell out there getting interceptions and a bunch of forced fumble recoveries and scooping scores? No, he's not doing all that.
Yeah,
But he's like your prototypical throwback 4-3 type of middle linebacker who's playing in the 3-4 front, who now that he has more talent around him, you're going to see a guy that's closer to the Buckets Award winner that we saw at Iowa.
yeah, yeah. Jack Duvall. Um, I mean, one thing for the offense, I think it will come a time. I think I've been hearing people calling for Isaac Tesla. I think that uh, right now, you know, Tesla is like he's like that nice, shiny, Corvette that you got with the cover on it in the garage. You know what I'm saying? And then people
Right.
come over and say, "Man, look, that's a nice car. Why you don't drive that? That's a nice ride. Why you don't drive that?" Well, I don't take it out when it rain. I don't take it out when it snow. I think it's just special occasion. I think that this was gonna happen, man, with Tesla this year. I think he's more like a red shirt. You know what I'm saying? He'll get some time. I think he'll be out there from time to time. But I thought that maybe people had a misconception of like how important he was gonna be, like running plays for him and stuff. And then it still may get to that point. I think that's a good thing right now. That you know what I'm saying. We not really running plays for him. You know what I mean? I do think he does need to be out there more though. I do think that that's the only thing. It just doesn't really seem right. Not right. I won't say right, but just seems like I don't want to say they don't know what to do with Tesla because I think it is a game plan for him. But it's just right now we really hasn't needed because St. Brown's been so dominant. You know what I mean? It just you've seen the past game like try to evolve, and I think that we have spent so much energy because we got punched in the mouth that first game. I think that we really hunkered down and really tried to run the ball. I really believe that, Walt. The last three games that we won, I think that, man, if Campbell would have had his way, he'd run it 80 times and not even pass it. You know what I mean? Just because he want that physicality aspect of our team to be there. So I think later on down the year, I think Tesla gonna get his opportunity. You know what I mean? And obviously, if it's an injury or something like that, he'll get more time. But I just thought that was interesting. You know what I mean? For him, he just seemed like he hasn't been out there that much. His special teams, he's been out there, but just during the offense. So, if I had, before we get out of here tonight, we could really. What's your gauge on the next? Let's just say, I know you don't. I don't know if you made a graphic for the next four. Okay, the first quarter. I'll pull it up real quick. The next four games, we can
I
kind
got
of.
it.
Okay, yeah,
I got it.
we go by the next four. I mean, we really don't have to expound on it too much because, like you said, we do our preview show on Saturday for the Bengals,
Yeah.
Bengals game Sunday. But the next four games with Cincinnati and Kansas City and Tampa, and I can't remember who's after Tampa. I know we got a bye week
We
after
got
that.
yeah, week 8. We got the bye week 8, and then fresh out the bye, we got a home game against Minnesota. So we talking about the second half of the season. So we kick off the second half of the season November 2nd against Minnesota.
Yeah,
Then we travel to Washington, which looks like we shouldn't be able to handle Washington. Then
yeah,
we got that November 16th game at Philadelphia
right at
after
Philly.
that.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, and that could be a rough patch. I mean, just counting, just think about it. Now on the schedule, I'm looking at what team who's going to be the next team that beats us. You know what I mean? That's how I feel now. Like, you know, who's going to be the team that play up to standard and beat the Lions? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I think those two games could be a situation where we could lose both or maybe go 1-1, or what I mean, because even Washington, you got to figure Jaden Daniels will be back by then, and I think that'll be maybe a little rivalry thing. You know what I mean? Dan always gets his revenge, man. Dan, if we lose one, he getting his. You know what I mean? Like it's like everybody that beats us, he got a checklist, man. You know what I mean? And I like you said with the Philly game, I think they're gonna be ready to play, but it's going to be cold. You figure November is going to be cold, so that's good. That's another factor that they have an outside game in November in Philly and in Washington, might be, uh, you might have to put that into play. The weather, we haven't had too many cold weather games with. I remember we beat the Packers. I think it was what was the last game of the season. In the cold, I think we beat the Giants in a cold weather game in New York.
Yeah.
We haven't. I don't think we played the Bears in a while in December. Even though this year we play them in January, last game of the season. So that's another element to this team that we really hasn't really had to have any tough outdoor games in the wintertime. You know what I'm saying? So
Right. I will say this though. So after that Philadelphia game, because we got a trip to Washington, then the next week we got a trip to Philadelphia. After that, we got 4 out of our next 5 games are at home. So we got the Giants at home, we got the Packers at home, then we got the Cowboys at home December 4th, and then we make a trip out to California to play the Rams December 14th. Then we come back home to host the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we do at least have a stretch of 4 out of 5 games at home before we finish the season at Minnesota and at Chicago, which I think are going to be 2 very, very crucial games in regards to who wins the NFC North. But as you said earlier in the show, I think where our A game, I put our A game up against everybody else's A game. When we come ready to play, can we handle Philadelphia? I believe so. We don't have any proof of it because we haven't handled Philadelphia. We can say that about the Rams because we've handled the Rams. We've beaten the Rams. We can say that about Tampa. We've beaten Tampa. We
mhm,
beat Kansas City 2 years ago, first game of the season. But
yeah,
it's a lot different from last year. Remember last year we talked about it at nauseum about the last 6 weeks of the season where they didn't have to drive past Indiana or they didn't have to drive past Chicago.
yeah,
This year is a little different. Um, Maybe we'll view it differently towards the end of the season because end of the season with 2 straight games on the road could be rough. But who knows? They may not make another trip back home. We'll know how that we'll have no idea how the season could end. But because Philadelphia, the Eagles, by the time it's all said and done, the Eagles are going to have a lot to say about this as well. But before we get out of here, man, I just want to get into the injury report real quick as of today, which was Thursday. We got Aleem McNeil, of course, all world defensive tackle we were just talking about. He was limited today in practice with a knee injury. Of course, we all know about that. Taylor Decker dealing with that shoulder, did not practice. Terrion Arnold dealing with a shoulder injury. He had a full day of practice. Kirby Joseph, once again, another DNP dealing with that knee injury, which I believe is something we need to start paying a little bit closer attention to. Khalil Dorsey still was in concussion protocol, but had a full day of practice today. And then, of course, free agent signed linebacker Zach Cunningham dealing with a hamstring injury. Another did not play. So it's not
Yeah,
the laundry list that we used to seeing around here or for a lot of other teams. Taylor Decker, he's pretty much at that point in time in his career where
yeah.
it's going to happen. He's going to,
Gonna play through it. He's playing
yeah, we,
through it
we
right
get a
now.
lot of those did not practice rest, did not practice rest. But Aleem McNeil,
Yeah,
Kirby Joseph, I think are the two major ones out there. Even though left tackle Taylor Decker is huge because if we lose Taylor, that could be a major issue. But
hmm,
boy, Kirby Joseph and Aleem McNeil, I'm in the camp honestly of we don't need Aleem right
yeah,
now. If I could stretch it out to another
yeah.
three
To
weeks,
after
I
the bye.
would just let him. Yeah, let him keep getting consistent reps in practice. Now you don't want him to get hurt in practice,
Hmm.
God forbid that. But I want more full days of practice out of him. If I can get a good 2 straight weeks of full practices, I'm good because I don't believe this team at the current moment necessarily needs him to win again, well, at least to win games against these teams that we do have coming up on the schedule. So
Yeah,
what are your
yep.
thoughts?
Just what you said, man. I wouldn't be trying to give McNeil back till after the bye, man. Till week 8, well, after that Monday night game, first that first Sunday, I think you said in November. That's when I would get him back. Get back. Taylor Decker's one to watch. I did see some stuff about. He even called Frank on the phone and kind of asked Frank, pick his brain about playing through injury and stuff like that. That's a situation where maybe this year could be Decker's last year. You know what I mean? I think he's fine to play. I think he'd go out there with one hand and play. You know what I mean? One arm and play. I think we don't have to worry about Decker really missed any time this year because I think he feels like this could be a special year. You know what I mean? Basically, what he said. I don't have an interview verbatim, but he was just basically saying how this year he don't want to. He's going to leave it all on the field, basically. So Taylor's fine. Terry and Arnold's fine. We need Terry on out there, actually. So it's good that he's practicing. It didn't look good when he walked off on his own power last Sunday when he got hurt. But Kirby Joseph thing, yeah, I agree with you. Why? Whenever you hear knee, that's not nothing really to take lightly. So that's something to look at. Hopefully, it's not something that's going to get worse during the season. And then, Khalid, Khalil Dorsey, excuse me, I said Khalil Dorsey, concussion protocol. He's Swiss Army knife, special teams. He can come in on different packages and stuff. I like Khalil Dorsey, as a like a Grant Stewart kind of player that we got. We got a lot of those guys, Swiss Army knives on this team, and then Zach Cunningham, who made some plays in the Baltimore game. You know what I mean? A veteran guy, been around the league. The hamstring is volatile, man. Hamstring could keep you out 2 weeks or it could keep you out half the season. You know what I mean? So hamstring is really bad. It could be really bad when if it's lingering. So we'll just have to watch. But like you said, it's not that bad for week 4, week 5, excuse me, in the NFL season. It's not really that bad coming into this week. You know what I mean? So yeah, yep. I agree, Chris, with
Well,
DJ Reed. I said the same thing, man.
yep.
We need DJ was playing good out there. Good ball out there. I thought, he did get beat on some plays, like I said, but the fact of the matter is, I think DJ does, you know, know how to play corner. You know what I mean? I think it's important. He knows, he just got a good feel for, when the ball is in the air, when his man maybe anticipating catching the ball. He's got good anticipation. I like DJ Reed, man. He might not be as big in stature. You know what I mean? He might not be one of these tall corners that you see these days, but I'm just glad, Chris. I think that he'll be back, by, I'm just saying Thanksgiving. Hopefully, he's not going to be out like the whole season. I think, injury reserve, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks. I think you have to be out for. So,
All right.
yeah,
Before we get out of here, after 4 weeks, first quarter of the
yeah,
season is now in the books. Just forecasting,
yeah,
evaluating this team. Trade deadline will be
yeah,
here in 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks. Is there any position that you think on this field on this team right now that they should try to realistically address? And I say
hmm,
realistically address because a lot of needs on this team that have been deemed as major needs by the fan base,
yeah,
local media, Brad Holmes and the team doesn't seem to view them the way fans and the local media view them. But is there a position group on the team that you feel like by the trade deadline or even via free agency or what's left out there? We need to do a
yeah,
free agency show too to see exactly what's still left out there. Is there a position that you feel like they
yeah,
should really upgrade
absolutely.
heading into like the second quarter of the season
Yep,
and after the
absolutely.
bye?
Corner. I mean, I know we got Trey Flowers of Seattle's practice squad, and still defensive lineman. I'm still going in. I'm still not all the way comfortable, man, at defensive line. Period. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I mean, Muhammad's played well, um, but I do think that they need to upgrade that position. Now, I did hear a little bit. A situation of why I've been hoping Miami lose because I've been hearing Jalen Phillips could be available for the Dolphins. You know what I mean? That's one guy that you may want to look at if Miami if the season start to go south. For them. So for me, I think another corner would be nice, and another defensive lineman, man. You know what I mean? Because you got to load up, and I think that it'll serve us well to have. We don't want to happen what happened last year. You know what I mean? Where we don't have anybody. You know what I mean? Then you just picking guys that you normally wouldn't pick. To be on your team, but you got to fill out the roster. So I would. We do free agents, so then I can pinpoint a couple guys. But Jalen Phillips is one guy that comes on the top of my head, Walt, that I could think of that just realistic that the Lions could get. You know what I mean? And maybe give up a third round pick or something. You know what I mean? It won't take much. It won't take like giving up two first round picks or anything like that. All the players at that the Miles Garrett's, the Micah Parsons, those guys, Max Crosby, those guys are already signed. So the next tier guys, you won't have to give up as much. You know what I mean, to get them. So
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go to like the edge rush position. Honestly, something that we've been talking about for the last couple of years here. I would like to see a speed rusher, like a pure speed rusher. I think we got enough beef upside. I mean, up front, as far as the defensive tackle position, getting the lean back in another couple weeks, or maybe sooner for that matter. DJ Reader, the vet out there, Talik Williams. We talked about Talik Williams earlier in the show and the impact he's had so far as a rookie on that defensive line. And then, of course, Aiden Hutchinson, uh, the all-world defensive end. But as much as I do like what Al Qadim Muhammad does provide, and he's a high-effort guy, um, I would still like to see an upgrade, like a pure pass rush guy. Not necessarily a guy that's excellent against the run, but iffy against the pass. I want a guy who's a pure edge rusher. If it takes us to get a higher gun, we can go get ourselves a higher gun, but at least another guy that can get after the quarterback. Also, we talked about the cornerback position a couple weeks ago. For me, it doesn't have to necessarily be a corner per se. I would like another safety. And this goes back off what I was saying about Kirby Joseph a few minutes ago. Like, what if that knee is something that's going to continue to bother him because that knee been going on since the offseason. So what if that knee turns out to be something that
Yeah,
is chronically giving him
yeah.
issues throughout the season? We're going to need another safety. We discussed them potentially drafting a safety during this
Well, didn't
past
they?
draft. And a guy I do want to
No, I
bring
was gonna
up.
say,
Yep,
didn't they
go ahead.
draft that Dan Jackson kid? Right, he's out for the season, Georgia. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's
out of
true.
sight, out of mind, bro. And I forgot,
Yeah,
I forgot all about him. You know why?
yeah,
Because
'cause
he's been
he
out of
hasn't been
mind,
out
out of
there. That's right.
sight, out of
Yeah,
mind. Yeah, but I want to bring up a name. I'm not just bringing him up because he played here, but there were rumblings about Cincinnati potentially, and whenever teams come in or you go to visit a team that you don't normally see that often, those organizations have phone calls, they have discussions. There were rumblings about Cincinnati last year potentially putting Dax Hill on
uh-huh.
the trade block. Um, People around here are very familiar with Dax Hill, former Michigan Wolverine, uh, playing within McDonald's defense, playing within Jim Harbaugh's defense at Michigan. He not only played free safety, he played strong safety. He had the athleticism to play
Yeah,
some one high. He can come down and run support and help out very fast. He blitzed off the edge for Michigan a lot. Dax was a weapon. And I know for sure they mentioned, well, at least Brad Holmes for that matter, mentioned how highly he thought of Dax Hill before the draft coming out a couple years ago. So for me, would I like to see a potential shutdown corner? That's cool, but I don't think any of those guys are going to be on the market, at least trade value wise, unless we're talking potentially Tariq Woolen of Seattle. We heard rumblings about him potentially being on the trade market, but like I said, I would like to see another
yeah,
defensive back, whether it's a safety slash corner, a guy that can come down, cover in the slot, as well as play the traditional safety role, and a pure speed rusher off the edge to help out those big guys up front. So those are the two things I wouldn't mind seeing. I don't think offensively, from a skill standpoint, they need much else. They don't need to go trade
no,
for a wide receiver. They don't need any more offensive line help. Miles Frazier should be back sometime, I guess, early next month. So that's another young body that we'll be getting back to help out the offensive line as well. I don't think they need much. I think this team right now is really ready to contend. They're just about one or two difference makers away on the defensive side of the ball, I think, from really being a legit threat towards the Philadelphia Eagles.
facts. That's facts.
All right, let's get into one more question before we get out of here. Chris Bird, what's going on, Bird? Says Granderson from the Saints might be available and not cost that much. I'm glad you brought him up. Our listeners know these players. A lot of people probably wonder who the hell is Granderson from the Saints. Um, Not the edge rusher that, at least not the hyped up edge rusher that Trey Hendrickson was from the Saints a few years ago. But Granderson is a guy who can get after the quarterback. And as Chris Bird mentioned, it wouldn't cost us that much either. Even Tariq Woolen, the cornerback from Seattle, 6'3", almost 6'4", 200 plus pounds, runs a sub 4.3, long, athletic,
Cool.
plays more like
Yeah,
a 5'10" corner for a guy
yeah,
that's 6'4". Yeah, man, and still a young pup. Um, this regime had him at the Senior Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years ago. Coming out, they coached him at the Senior Bowl that year, so they're very familiar with him. And if you're talking about getting somebody with Mondo
mhm,
upside, freakish upside, and if he's honestly on the trade block, you could probably get Tariq Woolen for a
yeah.
fifth.
Oh yeah.
Because regardless of how talented we think he is or was, he wasn't a first
Mhm.
round pick coming out. He hasn't performed as well as his rookie season with Sauce Gardner. Remember, there was arguments about who was better between him and Sauce Gardner that rookie year. He had 7 picks, if I'm not mistaken. He made a bunch of game
Yeah,
changing plays. He was part of the reason that we didn't make the playoffs that year when Seattle won that last game of the
yeah,
season and put us out, for that matter. So I think a guy like him, he gives you a guy with that alpha number one cornerback stature, athleticism that we keep raving about, that we think we need on the outside, and something we haven't had at all here. So Chris Bird, to elaborate a little bit more on what you were just saying. I'm with you. I'm not sure if the Saints are willing to move him, but the Saints should be willing to move anybody and everything. Mountains, work, whatever. They need to start getting some picks of their own because that Saints team ain't going nowhere at all.
That's right.
So, but all right, man. So we gonna get ready to get up out of here. We had these people long enough tonight. We will be back Saturday morning to give you guys a full breakdown on that Cincinnati Detroit game, as well as our four picks from the week 4 slate of games. Anything you want to say to these people before we get up out of
Yeah,
here?
just enjoy the ride. I mean, what we're seeing is real with this football team. I don't think that the first quarter is not something that's not real. You know what I mean? I think that what's going on. I think this is what you can expect. You know what I mean? You can expect us to go into hostile environments and win and play and come out with a W, man. You know what I'm saying? The experience of the first game getting kind of embarrassed by the I kind of we did get embarrassed by the Packers, and then coming back in a game the media really was trying to play up with Ben Johnson and trying to bring that narrative into trying to say, oh, Ben Johnson's going to come and play his old team and going against his old coach. We put that to bed, put 52 on them boys. Then the next game, it was all about, the Lions not going to be able to beat the Ravens because they beat us 35-10 a couple years ago. What we do, we go out and put 38 on them boys on Monday night, right? And last week, we just go out and just thoroughly beat the Browns. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just like we've been dominant, and we could say how many of those teams are really good, how many of those teams are not. I think the Bears are a little bit better than what they've been playing. You know what I mean? I think they'll find themselves 8-9 wins, 7-8-9 wins, something like that. I think, like you said, I don't think Baltimore is as good as probably we thought. You know what I mean? So but I think the Packers are good. You know what I mean? I think that, the Browns aren't very good. So we're somewhere in between, like being really, really good and being like the best one loss team out there. You know what I'm saying? It's just a fine line right now. And we'll see. We will see. Just mark. I wouldn't be surprised if we play Philly or Green Bay when it's time to play those teams again, and we still got one loss. That's a possibility. To be both teams be 9-1 or something like that. You know what I mean? When around Thanksgiving, it could be a battle for first place. So
That being said, we'll see y'all Saturday morning. See ya.